Like it. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Monday, October 27th, 2025. To my left is Drew, to my right is Gina, and this is the Administrative Committee. And let's dive right in. First item on the agenda is the approval of the Administrative Committee minutes from the meeting on August 25th, 2025. Any issue or concern with those?
I say approve.
Let's do it. Great. Item number 2, request for exemption from Moscow City Code Section 10-3-3 to permit an indoor airsoft facility. Bill, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So as you referenced, Title 10, which is our police regulations, Chapter 3 covers weapons. And Section 3-3 states that it's unlawful for any person unless authorized pursuant to Idaho Code Title 18, Chapter 33, to discharge firearms or weapons of any kind or description within the city. It goes on to state this code section shall include handguns, rifles, pellet guns, air rifles, BB guns, slingshots, flippers. Had to search
What
that for a little
is
bit.
that?
I couldn't find an example. It seems like kind of like a sling.
Okay.
No, not necessarily a slingshot, but maybe a sling type device, bows and arrows and other projectiles, providing, however, this city code section shall not apply to law enforcement officers in the discharge of their duties. Immediately following, Section 3-4 provides exceptions and permits. So it states that any time the city may, upon application, grant permits to shooting galleries, gun clubs, and others for shooting within city limits in fixed locations or localities and under fixed rules. Such permit shall be in writing, attested by the city, conforming to such requirements as the council may demand, and the permit thus issued shall be subject to revocation at any time by action of the city. So that's how city code currently reads. City staff were approached by an individual that is looking at establishing an indoor airsoft facility. So typically these are the arena type features where you have maybe team on team events, and you've got other partial walls or other things for people to hide behind, similar to laser tag or paintball type activity.
Okay.
Airsoft weapons are kind of, I guess, more similar to BB guns in that they just shoot a plastic projectile, so it's less harmful to an individual that's hit by that projectile. The proposal is for it to be located at 105 Lauder Avenue, which is a large commercial building located within the Motor Business Zoning District. The use would be allowed underneath the zoning code. But because it does involve the discharge of weapons within city limits, then it would require an exception from the council for that to occur. Staff, we prepared a resolution that would grant that exception and serve as the permit. But with that, I'd be happy, Chris is here. Chris King is the applicant. Answer any questions you might have, or I'd be happy to answer any questions you have of me.
Great. Drew, Gina?
So similar to paintball or BB guns, that's a wide, vast,
Probably
size
closer to
difference?
BB guns, but thinking plastic BBs.
Plastic BBs. Okay. And maybe this is for the applicant. Do people sign a waiver when they walk in?
That'd be a
Injury
question for the
kind of waiver?
applicant.
Chris, would you mind coming up?
Yes, ma'am. So for insurance requirements.
Chris,
You can
You
come.
just join us at the table
Sit
here.
with us. We don't mind.
Yeah.
You can sit.
A little less formal.
Yeah.
This one. Yeah. More
For that, there
conversation.
would be, typically insurance requires it, so there's going to be a lower rating for the number of feet per second if it's people shooting at each other. So they don't want it to, if there's clothing that's not covering, skin, they don't want it to impact and cause damage. Typical safety stuff would be require eye and face protection, clothing. This is all insurance type of requirements. Signing of waivers for all participants,
Okay.
all the way down to even with minors. So typically a 16 to 18-year-old would be allowed to go play as long as they have a parental waiver on file. Below that, it's going to have to roughly the 10 to 16 range, can be there with parents. If they're younger than 10, they don't even get to go out there on the open field. So it would be that that's the more dangerous portion is when it's that way. We'd like to also just allow some to have actually just normal target shooting with the airsoft weapons there.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. So there would be a separate section where they could just do target shooting for that. It would have less restrictions on that because you could have a higher, if you were going to have a higher feet per second one on that one, because you're not shooting at anyone, you're just shooting at a target. But all of these things, it's just little plastic 0.2 gram little pellets, BBs, That technically, even if you have open skin, it's going to sting, but it's not going to penetrate. So it won't hurt anyone that way. So we just want to minimize, any of the risk that way.
Any more questions off the top of your head right now,
No,
Gina?
not off the top of my
Okay.
head. Go ahead, Bryce.
Yeah, so I've read the section code, and for me, I don't have any reservations to what is being requested and the resolution that we need to grant. So I personally don't have it. I think it's opportunity. Clearly, this, like any business, it's not going to be for everybody, but it will be for some people. And I think giving the opportunity for that to happen is, I don't see any reservation. I don't have any reservations.
How many people will you employ?
It'll depend on ultimately the quantity of customers that are there. At a minimum, we envision we have to have the supervision with what we would call an armor. So as people come in with airsoft guns, they can either bring their own or check them out on site. If they bring their own, or even if they don't, they still need to be checked by the armor because we want to make sure there's no mix-ups. Some people may have real weapons on board.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't want anyone going out on the play field with a real weapon. So they'll have lockers and such to keep all of that off the play field. If they bring their own weapon, they have to have it, inspected by the armor to make sure it meets the criteria for insurance and such. So it's got a low enough velocity of the projectiles. They've got the right projectiles and such. So it'll at least be minimum of one. As things grow, if there's more supervision needed, it would just go from there.
I guess I'll say one thing. Like I grew up paintballing,
Mhm.
and really enjoyed the sport. This is less of an impact, and when I had to do my laundry, it was that was a different scenario. It was definitely a messy endeavor. I guess I wasn't that good but
The cleanup's a little bit easier
Yeah,
here. And
cleanup's a
so
little bit
it may
easier.
actually employ, whether it needs a Roomba robot to clean up all the little BBs everywhere, or a person to sweep up everything throughout the day. Those will have to get cleaned up.
So Christopher, I've got a Chris or Christopher. Do you?
I
prefer?
usually go by Chris.
Okay, Chris, great, thank you. I do have a handful of questions. I'm going to build a little bit more off what Gina said than
Sure.
what Drew said. I'm all for creative business opportunities, and I do think, when this came across our board, like I'm an Eagle Scout. I grew up in Scouts. Like this sounds right down the alley of that, and other groups like that would really benefit from participating. But I also get really nervous about firearm discharge in general, and so I do have a handful of questions that I hope it doesn't come across in any sort of personal way. I just kind of want to
Sure.
vet on the record as we move forward. And you've answered a handful of them, so I appreciate that already. So I'm curious, and you kind of said more about this, but I do want to clarify or at least expand on participants bringing in their own airsoft guns. You said that the armor will do the vetting on them, and I was doing some reading that a lot of airsoft guns have an orange tip, and I'm curious if that's going to be a requirement for your facility of all airsoft guns having an orange tip to differentiate from other firearms.
The default is for, especially if it's coming in off of there, I'd have to see if there are any other federal laws that require it. Anything that's sold
Mhm.
currently requires the orange tip to
Okay.
be on there.
Okay.
Um,
Because doing just a very quick Google search, a lot of these look pretty indistinguishable from firearms in general, right? And so I think that clearly the extreme of extreme worries here is there's a mix-up and something really catastrophic happens,
Right.
right? And so finding the safeguards in place to make sure that's accounted for, is something that I want to take very, very seriously. And so I appreciate kind of having a little bit more of that and knowing that the orange tip verification will be in place, or
and the main thing is the reason I can't answer it on the tip.
sure.
Some of the weapons, if for whatever reason they don't have the tip on there, once the armor's inspected it, we still have a way to identify it. So whether that's an orange stripe, orange something on there.
Okay.
So you do know that it's an in play, it's been verified weapon.
Okay.
But even people that bring in an orange tipped weapon would still have to go through the armor
Sure.
for that one there.
Great. Great.
So we don't assume anything is proper
Wonderful.
until we inspect it.
Thank you.
I like that.
I've got another kind of follow-up just tangentially related to that. Are you going to require any like if an applicant is, or not an applicant, a participant's bringing in an airsoft gun from the parking lot, or let's say they're walking to the facility and are they required to have a case? Are they required to have any sort of markings as they get out of their car? Because like I could see it being misconstrued given the location
Sure.
on a busy intersection across from the gas station, that somebody sees somebody get out of a car and has two weapons, right,
Certainly.
walking into a facility, not knowing what's going on. So I'm curious if there are any protocols that you all can put in place to ensure that weapons aren't dislodged until they're inside, or, you know, that they're not open out in the public, because I think that that could cause quite an alarm and maybe cause more bells and whistles to go off.
I think an element of that would be obviously a brand new person coming in. We've had no interaction
Sure.
with them on that one.
Sure.
A lot of it will come down to having that armor on site, that there's an element of how do you handle these things safely?
Mhm.
And so, yeah, there shouldn't be folks, coming in looking like Rambo,
Sure.
walking into the place.
Sure.
Obviously, everything's got to comply with legal requirements. So if they've got the right permits, et cetera, to carry, I mean, they
Right.
can legally do it, but at the same time, we don't want to become a nuisance, for the city where it looks like Rambo, showing up
Sure.
everywhere. So I think a lot of that's going to come down to education of the regular participants. And honestly, if it's a first-time college student coming over there to do that, they're generally already they're either not going to have something that they're carrying around because they typically don't even have one. They're going to use one of the ones at
Right.
the facility. Everyone else has typically already been trained in that. How do you cautiously and without being a nuisance to and scaring people at the gas station?
Sure. Sure.
But most people don't want to do those.
Sure. Great. Thank you. And then I guess I'm going to pivot real quick to Bill, and I appreciate your answers, Christopher.
Certainly.
I really do. Like if granting this exemption, would this then set a new precedent to move forward on allowing for firearms discharge with other facilities if a facility wanted to open up that was a rifle range in town?
It doesn't bind you any future action. I mean, you're
Okay.
looking at airsoft weapons
Right.
in this case. Just because you grant a exception in one location does not mean you're obligated or required to grant an exception in a different location, a different circumstance, or if it included weapons,
Great.
actual firearms.
Great. Thank you. Cool. So I think those are questions. I've got a couple more remarks, but I don't know if my questions gave you all any more.
Will you
Is
explain
that-
a little bit more about the target shooting part? I think that's kind of exciting for those of us who maybe aren't going to do the
Yes, the
other side.
envisioning on it is there's a large open space that we'll plan on using for the actual player versus player, where
Right.
there's obstacles in between. But a portion of that, we'd like to have 3 to 5 lanes where you can then take the airsoft weapon. There's a target. We'll initially start with paper ones. I'd like to be able to get digital ones that can just electronically score.
Yeah.
And so they just register the pings off of it. And you can now just practice using, whether it's a handgun, a rifle, all of the airsoft variety with that there.
I may or may not be really in favor of that part. I like that.
The target.
The target practice.
Yeah.
That's a great addition.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, clearly with my mixed bag of thinking here, I do see the benefit of safe and effective education at a young age with firearms of any regard. I think that's I think that's necessary. So I do see the benefit in that. I do still have just some reservations of knowing how 12 to 15-year-old boys can get hopped up in an environment like that and potentially get a little out of control, especially with only one potential staff member there. But I know that they would have parents watching.
So it's like a 12 to 15-year-old would
Mhm.
not be able to just go open play by themselves.
Right.
So that would be one where, in all likelihood, if we're having someone under 16 out on the open floor, then it would be we're not going to let the adults be out there. It's not going to be a free for all.
Sure.
That would be more probably kids' birthday parties,
Okay.
if they want to have, and now we've got parents there that are supervising type of thing. For more of we're envisioning with open play, where random people are just coming in and checking in, that would be your 16 on up. And again, the 16 to 18-year-olds would have to have a waiver. But they're going to be the mature enough ones that can do that. And obviously the armor can just kick anyone off,
Sure.
as needed if they're being unsportsmanlike, not following the rules, et cetera.
And you all provide the eyewear and you all provide the other kind of necessary protection per
Correct.
your insurance. Okay.
It would be similar to the trampoline park where
Sure.
they sell the socks there.
Yeah. Okay.
So we would have
Love those socks.
people.
Can't slip on hardwood
Right,
floors. So.
yeah.
So yeah, we would, have that there, but if folks want to bring it in, it would just, if they have their own, that's they're accustomed to, they could use their own safety gear.
Can I suggest that we take this to all 6 of us?
Mhm.
I mean, I
would like
think
that.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
And
agree.
yeah, as much as it means you have to come to one more meeting.
Oh, okay.
I do think the discussion is valuable and I feel better about the cutoffs of age needing parents in the room and I want everybody to be able to hear it.
I mean, I think one thing too that, as Chris has talked about, it's for insurance, for safety, for just properly knowing how to, I guess we call it recreation in this case. It's not like we're gonna. I mean, my son just turned 12 this weekend. Really back. It's not like him and his buddies will be riding their bikes down with like Rambo, wannabe Rambo, right? Like they have to go. Like I have to be present if I wanted them to attend,
Yeah.
right? They're not gonna. It's not like he's riding his bike to the pool with his buddies, right? In his swimsuit, right? This would be he might ride his bike, but I'll have to show up with him, right? He's not going to have the equipment there to do that. And so again, a lot of this, which I think you're going to have parent engagement in order to even be there, which I think it's just not like a free for all, right? And so I actually think that's a really good thing for the facility. Again, going back to my paintball days, I could have shown up with my buddies on my bike. I mean, this is like the early 90s, but anyway, which, and that would have been okay, which I would not be okay with today, right? And so I think for all the things that you've talked about, Bryce, maybe not all the things, but I think like the optics of like just having these kids biking with weapons or whatever, maybe I think this by nature of, I would say even the business plan that couldn't happen, let alone code. So
Yeah, there's a lot of tangential potential worries that fall outside of the business specifically that we're being asked to weigh in on all the what ifs, but and I'd be tempted to offer a few, but I'll save it. But I think that I like the idea of taking it all to council for sure. And I like the idea of hearing the continued conversation. Any other questions, Drew? Cool. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate
Chris,
it. All right. Number 3, Cody, hello. We're going to have a nice East City Park stage project update, and we are thrilled to hear from you.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Is he looking at the picture?
I mean, that's
That was just
pretty.
beautiful right there.
That's the East City Park stage.
come on, man. Don't do that to us.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so while they bring that up, it's been a while since we provided you with an update on this project. I think it was August 18th where we came to you last. So we wanted to just give you an update on what's happened since. It was in August that we walked through kind of our outreach efforts that occurred over that previous year, comments received, and then presented a 30% concept design with cost estimate. As you might recall, the estimate at that time was based on those drawings was just under $800,000 for construction. And as another reminder, in the approved fiscal year 2026 budget, it includes $885,000. That's for design and construction. At the conclusion of that meeting, and with your support, we did proceed with issuing a request for qualifications for design services. That was issued on October 4th with the deadline of this past Friday. On Friday, we did receive 2 submittals. Really haven't had a chance, as typically the case, Friday afternoon. And full disclosure, I was out of town. But we did receive 2 submittals. They haven't been evaluated yet in any way. That'll occur over the next couple weeks. A group of staff will evaluate those, and once a team is selected, we'll negotiate a fee with them, as well, and draft a professional services agreement. That agreement would actually be subject to your review, and you can kind of see in your printed sheet and on the screen the red text is sort of touch points for your where you'll see it again. We anticipate roughly around December 15th that we would bring that professional services agreement back to the full council for approval. With that approval at that time, we would dive into a final design, again, building on that 30% concept that we've all we've all seen. The design, ultimately, we hope, as you can see, looking at the schedule, would be wrapped up by early spring. And we do plan to build in another checkpoint with you at the 60% construction package. So as the concept evolves, we provide you with yet another update, an opportunity to provide input. Ultimately, the project would go to bid, we see, in late March, early April. And we come back to you yet again in May, hopefully with approval, seeking your approval of a bid award for actual construction. Construction itself, we don't plan for that to start, and it was clear in the request for qualifications, until about September 7th. That's by design, and that it would follow after Palouse Pride in the Park, kind of the last big event that we're aware of. And so we wouldn't disrupt that. And given the relative simplicity of the construction, we anticipate that we could still wrap, all significant construction up by the end of 2026. So that's kind of where we're at. So again, from a staff perspective, we'll be evaluating the two submittals we received over the next couple weeks, and hopefully be back to you by mid-December, seeking approval for a professional services agreement for design services.
So there's only 2 SOQs submitted.
That's correct.
Only 2. Wow.
Yep, only 2. We did have a number of, inquiries, calls just about what the project is and background, and yes, but we did only receive 2.
I like this, this rundown. I appreciate that. I'd like to have this more often. And I know it's hard
I see
to-
the text, and you have that.
Yeah, other questions, comments, Drew?
I think this is awesome. So
Yeah, nope.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I think that just also to be able to kind of communicate back to the community that things are moving forward, right? Because I know that there's been kind of a lot of like, punch the gas, hit the brake, punch the gas, hit the brake, kind of like from, I think, some community perception. But just knowing that there's a really detailed, or at least, nicely detailed plan here is good to be able to have. So yeah, I appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Anything from Bill, staff?
From staff?
All right. Well, we are adjourned at 16:22:29.